Welcome to Elect Connect, a candidate forum brought to you by the Greater Bloomington Chamber of Commerce. I'm Mary Morgan, the Chamber's Director of Advocacy and Public Policy, and we'll be talking with Trent Deckard, who's running in the Democratic Party for an at-large seat on the Monroe County Council. First of all, I'd like to give a shout out to our sponsors for Elect Connect. Without them, this work would not be possible. They include German American, Bunger & Robertson, the City of Bloomington, Hoosier Energy, Indiana University, and Smithville. We're very grateful for their work. So again, we're going to be talking with Trent Deckard, Democratic Party candidate for Monroe County Council and at-large seat. Welcome, Trent.
Thank you so much for having me, Mary. It's a real pleasure to see you like this. I wish it were in person, but here we are.
Here we are. So I hope you can just begin by telling us a little bit about yourself and why you're interested in running for this office.
Sure. Well, first of all, I love people. And I think to be in public service, you must like people. I think it would be the place to choose to go into work if you did not. I'm running for office because I believe in this county. I believe that the people that have run and gone before us have built an incredible community. But that doesn't just stay that way. It takes people to tend to it and to offer new ideas and be open to new ideas to build on what we have. I come from an 8-generation family in this community. And while some people will laugh about that and say, oh, does a townie ever want to see anything change? I would argue townies with 8 generations have seen everything change. And so we remember the rougher days in the community, and we also remember the progress that's made. And so it's everything that comes into Monroe County, being Monroe County, has been part of that. I've been running on accessibility for every citizen. I want people, no matter who they are, how they live, how they love, I want them to see their representation in community and government. I want them to find that accessible, and I build upon my time at the state election division as a co-director in election administration, that they can engage with ballots, that they can do that. And I'm running on an affordable, sustainable community. There's so many folks that this is a place to live that's not accessible to them cost-wise, but we need practical solutions that do that. We also have to protect the community. So if the lake's under siege or other resources, we have to be honest about that and have really practical solutions to move something forward that can get things done. So that's some of the reasons I'm running. I'm running as our friend Trent Deckard because I literally believe there's not places that I don't have either knowledge of somebody or comfort going to listen and talk to people and hear their concerns.
Okay, thank you. So what's your outlook for Monroe County for the remainder of 2020 and into 2021? And how do you think the COVID-19 fallout will affect the budget? And what changes would you support to address any budget shortfalls that you anticipate?
Well, I first want to say that the outlook, I think, is very difficult right now because there's so much that we do not know. There's an old saying about knowing what we don't know, and I think certainly we're in that situation. This has, without a doubt, been one of the most consequential, catastrophic events that has affected this community probably in my lifetime easily. And we can see that when you go downtown, when you go anywhere in this community, and you either see storefronts that are closed or doing delivery and carry out, or you see folks in masks and moving about. This is not your typical Bloomington in April or May, depending on when you're watching this. And so with that, the county has moved quickly or tried to move quickly. It is difficult sometimes to move as quick as you absolutely necessarily need to do to not only shore up or assist. I don't want to say shore up because it's a heavy lift, to assist our not-for-profit community, but beyond that, to have a responsible assistance for area businesses that are affected using food and beverage tax dollars. Moving forward, we have looked with our county departments at this. I think people are being very sober with their judgment on the future. I think they'll have to be even more sober. We are considering today in our council session a hiring freeze so that we are not hiring people that later might not make it into future county budgets. We're also, thankfully, we have a rainy day fund. It's about $7.1 million, and that was a wise decision by previous councils. We believe there's a strong chance that it'll all be utilized and then some to make up revenue losses that come into the county. The underlying result of this, though, is not that the county has revenue loss. It's that our quality of life here is affected. We've got people out of work. We've got people hurting, families that are just so uncertain, health concerns. Our big thing is to make sure that we're supplying and offering the same life essentials that we can to protect life, promote health, and at the same time maintain the services that the county does to the existing employees we have. We'll know more, I think, in a few months, but for now, we've got a committee that's looking at this, figuring out the numbers, having those sober discussions, and we'll continue to do that. And it'll be a process, and then some.
Somewhat related, the COVID-19 crisis has put the Monroe County Convention Center expansion on the back burner, understandably. What is your outlook for that project?
Well, as you know, Mary, I try to be really optimistic about things, and some people would say that I've been overly optimistic in the past. It certainly, in better days, was a hard and difficult project simply because there were a lot of strong differences on how you move forward. I think people generally had come to a consensus on moving forward, but it was how you move forward. I think now, this is probably a wake-up call for a lot of folks that, you know, the reality and consideration of doing the project as we have it now is on hold until we figure out more. Can the public gather in places as they once did is a basic necessity question that we have to figure out as a community. And so we'll be figuring that out. One thing I have said continuously in my campaign, and I'll say it again, some people say this is an oversimplification, but I think we need it in these times. I believe that elected officials can work together. I believe that they can get good results for their constituents and that they can make a positive impact in the community. I think if we would all adopt that mantra and approach not only convention center down the road, but this crisis today, we will get through it. And I suspect everything else is going to be a little bit trivial when we all want my way or the proverbial highway. We will have to work together, and that's federal, that's state, that's local, because literally we are going to be in the negatives of this for some time.
What actions by the Monroe County Council do you think affect businesses most directly? And how do you solicit feedback from businesses that might be affected by council decisions?
Sure. I think that there's a tone, not just set by county council, but by county government on ease of access to processes. You know, local government, like any government, can get incredibly complicated and at times some would say bureaucratic. And it always disappoints me to hear that folks feel like they can't get something done from the county. I think that number one, the thing that we can do is set a tone that, you know, we are dependent upon our employers. And my heavens, if ever there was a time that we understood that, we are dependent on those things. We're dependent on our connectivity, and those things are extremely fragile. And so the council can set that tone by showing up and listening. I served as council liaison to the downtown Bloomington commission last year. I'm not in that role now, but I loved going to those meetings and just listening. I've proxied at BEDC meetings. I've been a liaison to the chamber, and I'm always impressed with how the chamber is aggressively reaching out to talk about these issues. And I think that's incredibly crucial with the policy advocacy. Most of the things we can do is be present. You cannot lead from behind. And so being out and aware is a huge component to all of what I try to do. And I just soak those things in and try to advocate as best I can.
Speaking of advocacy, what changes at the state level do you feel are necessary to benefit Monroe County in the next couple of years?
That's an interesting question. You know, the state, have said for a long time, I think that we do not benefit, electorally from fragmented districts that we have. So I think redistricting reform is a common sense thing. You look at our districts, they spiral out of the county, and you've got more people. I don't know that you're necessarily getting everything that you can. One thing the state could do is to also have some reasonable following of home rule. We seem to be into a process where we're continuously second guessing local government. Now, sometimes I agree with the action that maybe the state has taken, but the legislature should not be the 10th or 8th county council member, or the 8th or 9th 10th city council member. I think that, sorry, I'm losing track of my numbers, but I just think that there's an aspect, you either have local government or you don't. You freeze schools up to do what schools need to do. They have to run those budgets. And everything else is a little bit different. Congress has its role, the state has its role. So that's just some of the things. The last, I'm wandering too long here, but with economic development, I think the state has often not been serious about healthcare. I think the state has also not been serious about giving businesses tools beyond tax cuts. We can argue all day about the relevance of those of the tax cuts, but the reality is we have to make a place that the students I teach will then come and work. And so we just have we have an unemployment problem now that's developing due to this crisis, but we have a brain drain that's been going on a lot longer than that. And so making a place that people can work when they graduate is huge.
Yeah. Well, we need to wrap up, unfortunately. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we wrap up the interview?
The last thing I'd just say is thank you so much to your sponsors, and thanks to the Chamber for doing this. Please make sure you apply to vote absentee by mail through our county clerk's office. You should be receiving an application in the mail, but if you do not, please be persistent with that. Make sure, of course, you're registered to vote on time, not only for the primary, but for the fall. Regardless of who you vote for, you can vote for me, against me, whatever you want. Please safely take part in that process. It will protect our poll workers. It'll help our system immensely. And I just thank you so much for all your consideration of me and my candidacy.
Great. Thanks, Trent, again, for all the work that you do and for talking with us today. Again, Trent is running in the Democratic Party primary on June 2nd for an at-large seat in the Monroe County Council. Again, we'd just like to thank our sponsors for Elect to Connect, German American Bank, Bunker & Robertson, City of Bloomington, Hoosier Energy, Indiana University, and Smithville. And finally, to echo what Trent said, please remember to vote on June 2nd, and all voters are eligible to vote by mail, so please consider that as an option. You can get more information on the Monroe County election site at monroecountyvoters.us. And we will be posting the Chamber candidate site, chamberbloomington.org/2020-primary-election. Thank you again for joining us with Elect Connect.